I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Full house here. So, are there any comments from the audience? Okay. How about corrections to the agenda or consent calendar? Okay. Do we have a motion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. And the vote. That passes unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to 6A, Seed Fund Sierra. Julie?
Good afternoon. Can you guys see the presentation on your screen?
Yes.
They're still coming up out here. There we go. All right. Well, I'm excited to be here today to present to you the culmination of a year of effort to bring together this exciting project for the wastewater treatment plant, a solar array. We've got a couple of goals for today. First, we're going to start with a presentation of the project and kind of walk you through where we've been over the course of the last year. We'll present some of the key features and benefits of the proposed project and talk about the financial impacts of adding solar power here at the wastewater treatment plant. And then we'll provide an overview of the road ahead to implementation of the project. At the end of the presentation, we're going to be asking the board to lend its support formally to the project by acknowledging a letter of intent between CORE and ProStar. Before I get started, I want to make the board aware that we have, in the last couple of days, received an outpouring of support from members of the community in favor of this project. We've received no fewer than 20 individual letters from community members, including a very detailed, nice letter from Joe Irvin, the city manager, in support of the solar project and its goals. So with that, I will go ahead and get started. The district has considered solar on and off over the years as the technology and the solar industry has developed. The idea of a solar project has always made some sense to the wastewater treatment plant because we have a large centralized power-consuming facility that's surrounded by high-capability undeveloped land that we own. But when we've dug into the details previously, it's never really penciled out. Now we have a convergence of factors that have tipped the scales in favor of solar. The district's cost of power is going up quickly as the cost of solar projects is going down. Changing climate is resulting in warmer winter storms, improving our year-round production potential. Wildfires and the threat of power safety shutdowns has the district thinking about how it'll continue to provide its services reliably and cost-effectively during extended power outages. The city has adopted sustainability goals, and as the largest power consumer within the city limits, SCPUD has a big role to play in meeting those goals, and regulatory mandates on emissions may not be far behind. I'll give you a little bit of history. In the summer of 2020, the district worked with other regional agencies and the Seed Fund Sierra to identify the best team to bring solar projects to the region. CORE provided the standout proposal, bringing together national experience with local expertise to tackle the challenge of developing cost-effective solar in an alpine environment. Over the course of the last year, the district staff has worked diligently with the solar team to define the parameters of the best project for the district and to answer your questions and address your concerns about certain aspects of the project. So we're here today, as I mentioned, as a culmination of this effort to present the project to you and to answer any remaining questions that you have so that you can make the commitment the team needs to move the project forward. So, what will our system look like? This is a conceptual plan of our system developed for the Liberty net metering application, which I'm happy to say was submitted to Liberty last week for their review. Our actual system will be about the same size as what's shown on this slide, but it'll be located a little bit farther east. This slide lists the primary technical considerations that are going into the design of the system. We'll talk about snow country and impact on operations on following slides, but before we go there, I want to touch a little bit on the size of our project. So our plant uses 6 to 7 million kilowatt hours of power every year. We are designing a system that will produce about a third of that overall total consumption. The primary reason that we are capping our project at this 1 megawatt size is that's the maximum size array that is allowed under Liberty's current net metering tariff. What that means is that if the district, that with an array of this size, the district won't have to compensate Liberty any additional for their lost revenue from us no longer taking that power from them. If our project were any larger, we would have to negotiate a separate rate with Liberty for the power that we are generating from the array. That would take us a lot longer to be able to implement the array, and it would cost the district a lot more. So 1 megawatt is definitely the size project that seems to make the most sense for the district at this moment in time. The purpose of our wastewater treatment plant, as you guys all know, is to reliably treat sewage and to export recycled water out of the Tahoe Basin. Any solar project needs to be integrated into the treatment process without a negative impact on our ability to perform those primary functions. So over the last year, we've thought about the potential ways that a solar system could impact our system, and we've built provisions into the project to handle them. The biggest potential impact of this project is actually the siting of it. The solar array will be located 300 feet off the eastern perimeter of the plant, giving us plenty of room for potential future plant expansions if we need it. We've also included language in the contract that will allow us to actually shut down the solar array when we need to perform maintenance on the plant, or if the power coming from the utility is dirty and could be harmful to our equipment, then we can also shut down the solar array and run off of our generator until the quality of the power improves. In both those cases, we wouldn't need to compensate the solar provider for any of their lost solar generation within the terms of the agreement. And then we want to make sure that the solar system plays well with the other treatment processes. With a solar system that's tied to the grid, we don't require any special equipment in order to avoid power surges that might negatively impact the plant. Those can wreak havoc on electrical motors and other equipment. So that was another consideration. And finally, we don't want the solar array to be a maintenance burden on the district's small electrical staff. So with a PPA, which is the recommendation that we are making, we will be buying the solar output, but we will not own the array, and we will not be responsible for the ongoing operation and maintenance of that solar system. Now I will turn it over to Trevor for a few slides. We'll talk to some other features and benefits of the project.
Good afternoon, Trevor Coolidge, Senior Engineer. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the research we did of other systems that operate in snow country around our area and within the Mountain West. We reached out to Truckee Sanitary District, Mammoth Community Water District, and the City of Aspen. All of them have had projects that have been online for at least 10 years. All of them had very favorable feedback. Truckee Sanitary District reported replacing 1 panel over the course of 13 years. Mammoth Community Water District exceeded their production by over 10% in the first year, and the city of Aspen had equally high production as a result of the cool weather at altitude. Solar panels perform better with cooler temperatures. So in reaching out to each of these, we gathered numerous tips and lessons learned. We've incorporated those into the requirements we put on the solar developers and the actual designs being put forth in front of us. For example, within these system agreements, we have structural design parameters to consider wind, seismic loading, and snow loading. In addition to that, we've considered snow in both the configuration of the system, that's the row spacing, the height, and the slope. And we've considered the production losses due to snow, The project panels are bifacial panels. Those are panels that benefit from the reflections of snow or the underlying ground. So they're like two-sided panels. Those perform better in winter by about 10% according to NREL studies. The Canadian solar panels are some of the highest rated for snow load. So we're quite confident that we won't have panels under snow loading. The winter production losses I want to stress, are considered in the production guarantee microstar. The overall system's been derated from what you typically expect for our area, and so the production guarantee reflects that. And also, in the event that snow is required, ProStar is responsible for that. In addition to snow removal, we're responsible for removing any tree growth or vegetation growth that might occur and shade the system. We even have pollen removal during pollen season. If you ever have to clean your windows, that's also a concern for production. So, in placing the system in the context of our long-term visions for the plants, this 1 megawatt project offsets only a portion of the wastewater treatment plant's current power demands. Julie mentioned around a third. And a project of this size allows us to get familiar with solar without being 100% reliant on it. It also allows us the capacity and the space to expand either the solar system or to bring other generators online, whether that be a biomass cogen facility, fuel cells, gas turbines, whatever it might be in the future. In conjunction with a battery backup system, that will let us start to develop our own microgrid and make us more resilient, particularly with the onset of public safety, public shutoffs in our area, and ongoing winter storms. So basically, by bringing all these generation sources online, we have existing generators. We'll then have solar. If we add battery to that mix, we've got battery backup, and then we can start to optimize our equipment, whether that's efficiency or when to bring motors on and offline based on the available energy, to really be resilient through these power outages. So it really has the potential to increase our reliability and reduce disruptions in our operations. So this is a kind of a cute slide, but it does reflect the benefits or kind of what we're mitigating by bringing the system online. I want to also touch on just the benefits of solar. Liberty's current energy mix is 37% renewable. That exceeds California's renewable portfolio standard, which is great, but it is all coming from the Nevada desert. By bringing the system online, we'd have a local source of energy that wouldn't be disrupted by transmission issues along the way. We might not have a local power system shut down, but there might be one along that transmission line due to a Nevada fire. So we will have a local, reliable source of energy, and it sets us up for a more reliable future, as I noticed previously. One thing to note on this, in addition to the carbon emissions, there's some concern about the trees removing. The rate, even just on an annual basis, far exceeds what's lost through the removal of those trees. And it's equivalent to not burning 40,000 gallons of gasoline a year. So it's a lot of energy that we're talking about. Another thing to note, we are retaining a renewable energy credit from this project. We can either sell that in the future, there's a marketplace for them, or we may need it to offset either our operations or a future project. We've seen other wastewater entities have to install solar to offset the construction impacts and ongoing operations of large projects. So that'll be something we'll keep in our pocket and we'll retain as an added benefit. So with that, these are some of the green components of the system, and there's always more than one form of green. So Julie's going to talk about the financials next.
when we started evaluating the pricing of the solar proposals that we were receiving, I had taken a look back at our Liberty rates from 2016 to 2020. At that time, the rates were bouncing up and down, but on average, they were increasing at about 3% per year. Then, over the course of the last 12 months, Liberty has received permission from the CPUC to raise rates substantially. Consumption rates for our peak summer hours have increased 48% in the last year, and they're seeking another 19% increase on January 1. And this projection is actually low. There's another adjustment that they have turned in to the CPUC just recently that hasn't been captured on the slide. That additional adjustment would take our consumption rate to 17.6 cents per kilowatt hour, 28% higher than it is now. So as I go on to the next slide, keep that 13.79 cent number in the back of your head. That's what we're paying right now for our peak consumption power rate. So this slide shows you the PPA rates that staff is recommending to the board for the solar system. It has a 25-year term. It starts at 10.87 cents per kilowatt hour in year one, and then increases by 3% each year. So right out the gate, we're going to be almost 3 cents cheaper for the power provided by the solar than what we would be paying Liberty. ProStar provided the district with several different options for staff to consider, varying the length of the PPA term, the rate at which the price would increase each year, those are the two main variables. We conferred with Paul and our utility rate consultant, Jeff Inge, about the long-term savings offered by each of those options, and Paul agrees that this was the best option that we were offered. And so this is the option that we are wanting to move forward. The beauty of the PPA is that we're able to set the rate increase now for the next 25 years for this portion of our power. Our utility rates are highly volatile, and we have little control over how they are set. The second and third rows of this table show our attempt at quantifying the financial benefit of the solar project over that full 25-year term. But this is really hard to do since we don't know what Liberty is intending to do with our rates in the future. We've assumed that after this current spike that the rates will then kind of level out and increase modestly 3% per year as they have in the past. So on this slide, what you're seeing is a fairly minimal 25-year savings on our power costs for this portion of our power. But as you can see, just one spike like we've experienced this year is almost doubling the amount of savings we would see over 25 years. This will be the district's first solar project. And so staff and the board have naturally had questions about how to address certain problems if they arise over the life of the array. This slide presents some of the most common questions that we've heard. Gary has worked closely with district staff to make sure that all these concerns are being addressed to our satisfaction in the power purchase agreement. I'm not planning on taking time today to walk through each individual item. But Gary will present them in as much detail as you guys would like to hear when we return to you in a month with the actual PPA contract for your execution. So, to summarize, staff is recommending that the district finalize its negotiation of a power purchase agreement allowing Standard Solar to build and operate a solar array on district property and for the district's sole use. By entering a PPA rather than purchasing the array outright, Standard maintains the risk for the production of the array, and staff is relieved from the need to provide ongoing maintenance of the array. The project will build a 1 megawatt AC capacity array, which will offset roughly 1/3 of the plant's current power consumption, leaving the district plenty of room for making energy efficiency improvements at the plant, further reducing the consumption of costly utility power. The cost of power under the PPA will increase at a modest rate of 3% per year for the next 25 years, stabilizing the district's cost for power and improving our ability to budget for this ongoing expense. And so if you don't have any questions now about the terms of the PPA, I'm going to hand it over to Michael Keller from CORE, who's going to walk us through just a couple of brief slides about where we go next. Anything at this point from City?
Did you say Gary was going to go through that previous slide that you had there?
When we return next.
Conditions of bankruptcy and things.
Yeah, so when we return next month and talk about the provisions specifically that are in the PPA, then we'll go through them at that time. You can ask specific questions right now if you want to know. But...
I can wait till next month.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. I'm Michael Keller. I'm the Director of Pre-Construction with CORE Construction. We're a local and regional building contractor here, and we're taking the lead on the project management and the due diligence, and then ultimately the construction process for this project. So kind of getting into the timeline and milestones, just a handful of things that we've already been working on over the last year while negotiations and understanding of what the ultimate scope of work for this project needed and wanted to be. Those discussions with Liberty and understanding what was right for SCPUD. We were also in the background working to help make sure that we understood the details that were going to go into this project far before it ever got to the point where we were developing that conceptual plan. So we've gone out multiple times. We've visited the site. We've begun to do some of our own investigations just to make sure that when the information that's being provided and presented to you today was as accurate as possible. One of the things that we try to do is eliminate the risk in these type of projects by doing that due diligence early on through the programming, conceptual level of the project, and then carrying that through construction. So then hopefully once you execute the PPA agreement and we can get further into the design process, we will have already bypassed a lot of the obstacles that many people face going into construction projects. So right now, we're in that pre-construction kind of pre-planning, planning phase. In October, we're going to begin the TRPA approval process. And so we've got environmental and geotech, as well as TRPA consultants online, ready to go. We have local building partners in SierraCon and JKAE, who we've brought on board to help assure that we go through this process with as little lessons learned as we need to. We've built a number of projects up in this area and understand what's kind of coming out in front of us. And all of that is intending to begin construction activities on May 1st during the TRPA grading season allowance. So we want to make sure that we hit that window. There's quite a bit of tree removal and earth work that needs to be done. So we want to maximize that season so that way we can begin our underground electrical work in June, doing our solar racking in July, August. And then ultimately in October, by the end of the year, we will be commissioning the project for a end of the year, basically turning over a live photovoltaic system for you. And again, just some of the next steps here. Today, the board approval acknowledgement of our letter of intent. And then in September, the executing the agreements with the PPA and our licensing that will allow us to begin that design process and move forward towards that May 1st construction start. And then again, that allows basically the beginning of October, allowing us to kind of move forward with all of that work. And so if you have any questions about the planning construction process and the reason why we're a member of this team and why we think we're right for this team, please feel free to ask any questions.
All right, any final questions before I request the action?
Actually, I do, Julie. The microgrid concept, I didn't fully understand it. Sounds like, well, what happens at night on an ordinary day?
So as the solar array is being proposed right now, sun goes down, the solar panels stop generating, and we go to full utility power. The array is being built battery ready. There is not a battery included in the scope of work at this time. In the future, when the cost of a battery seems to make sense for us to add that to the system, then any excess power available from the solar system would go onto that battery and be stored and then automatically discharged to the plant after the sun goes down.
Okay, so the nighttime backup is not our diesel generators.
So with a battery scenario, if the battery is large enough to, keep us running through the night, it would be all battery.
We're still connected to the grid. Thank you.
Yes, and we're still connected to the grid.
When you did mention that you might switch some of your high electrical usage to different parts of the 24-hour period, meaning daytime versus nighttime when rates were cheaper prior, right?
Yeah, so I didn't talk about it as an operational impact, but it is actually an operational opportunity for us to revisit some of our processes and when they occur. You know, right now we do our backwashing and a lot of our solids handling at night when the power rates are low. Particularly that solids process is very energy intensive. And so we might look at, do we spread that out during the course of the day? Do we concentrate it in the middle of the day? Same thing with the pumping out to Luther Pass. We try to keep all that pumping happening at night, spread it out during the day, do more of it during the sun hours.
So I was just going to say there might be some folks in the audience that wanted to speak to it.
Anyone in the audience have any questions?
Should I request Lori, I believe, Kemper? She did want to.
Yes. Maybe just come up one at a time.
I didn't want to.
All right, hey, thanks so much. It's my first time presenting at a meeting like this. Just want to thank everybody for community service. I'm here today in two capacities. First, just as a customer, I wanted to say that I just want to express, I'm a person who is deeply concerned about climate change, about wildfire threat, and I just wanted to express my support for any measures that are climate adaptation and mitigation measures, including this project. The financial reasons alone are enough, right? Secondly, I wanted to represent a group of community youth that I've been working with lately. I volunteer with the Tahoe Climate Change Action Network, and we do work to inform the community about great opportunities that are happening. And I took an opportunity to let these youth know about the potential of this project, and they wanted to express their support, and I just wanted to read a short paragraph from the Climate Crew / Generation Green students representing South Lake Tahoe High School. Dear STPUD board members, the students of South Lake Tahoe are signing on to this letter to voice our support for the STPUD going solar. The benefits of solar cannot be denied. STPUD going solar is a huge win for the environment and saves millions of dollars. Saving this money is so important because we live in a disadvantaged community. Although we are young, we are already accustomed to our power being cut off when it is windy or hot. Unfortunately, we have also become accustomed to our summer skies being filled with smoke and ash as fires rage. Installing solar at STPUD will make sure that we can pump water and put out our fires when the power is cut. In addition, it gives us both pride and peace of mind that our community is taking concrete action toward addressing our climate crisis. We thank you for your leadership and taking this very important step of installing solar and toward our safer future. So again, that's the Climate Crew / Generation Green at South Lake Tahoe High School expressing their support for the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
And I am Sarah Letton.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Lori Kemper, and I just met Sarah Letton, who I've talked on the phone, but because of COVID, we haven't actually met in person. So, thank you for providing this opportunity for us to connect. I also just want to thank you, President Sheehan, and all the members of the board that you've been looking into this. So, my name is Lori Kemper. I'm a licensed civil engineer. I worked for the Law and Water Board for 33 years. I've been retired for 4 years. And I've been serving on the Lake Tahoe Unified School District Board. So I'm here wearing a couple of hats as well. A ratepayer for 34 years. I just want to support what you're doing. I think it's wonderful and it's exciting. And I heard somebody say, we can do hard things, and it's like finally we're here, and it's great. So I want to honor you and encourage you to take these steps forward. I just want to let you know that the Lake Tahoe Unified School District, basically because of the influence of the group that Sarah Letton was just talking about, the students, the district last year, we did adopt a resolution regarding our responsibilities to, our commitment to reducing our carbon emissions, as well as increasing climate literacy within the K through 12 curriculum. And so I just want to continue basically to work together in the community, and I think it's great the city's also supported that. So I look forward to working with you in partnership and in future collaboration. And there'll hopefully be opportunities for students in our community to learn from this project and be able to see it. And it's also part of new curriculum that the district is supporting to support environmental engineering as well as just natural resource curriculum. So there's opportunities, hopefully, for careers for our community, whether they're in engineering or wastewater technicians. I saw that John Fields will be talking about staffing later. So I think, that there's a great opportunity for the district to work with South Tahoe Public Utilities District to work with the school district in these ways for our community, our students to know that what kinds of jobs are available and what it takes to get to them and what we can do to serve our planet better. And I applaud you all for your community service and the work you do to protect water quality and the environment. So the time is now for action. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lori.
Hi, I'm Robert Ehrlich. I'm a retiree also. I've worked for various agencies on water quality issues over the last 30 plus years. And I really appreciate the district's efforts to help meet the cities and the area's clean energy goals. And it's really important, being the largest power consumer, that you guys are working on local generation issues. And if there's any opportunity for us to kind of help you work with Liberty so that it reduces the cost of additional solar capacity, kind of let us know, because it looks like you might have room to increase your capacity. And again, congratulations for working on these projects. I do have a couple of technical questions because I'm kind of new to this. One is the 1 megawatt plant going to be sufficient for plant operation solely on solar power at any time? And then the second one is I'm not quite sure how to do the conversions on the sheet that talked about the plant producing 1,408 kilowatt DC hours to making, how do you translate that to a 1 megawatt plant?
So the DC question is 1.4 megawatts DC, which is equivalent to 1 megawatt AC.
Okay.
So that's the easy one. The question about whether we'll be able to power the whole plant at any time with just solar, it depends on what we're running and how. Yeah, so I think that'll be the next step, is really looking at our load pattern and figuring out the most beneficial way for us to make those changes. So, there might be some other benefits of moving things from one time of the day to the other, beyond just whether we're immediately using the solar in the moment or letting it flow onto the grid and then back. which is kind of how it'll work. If we don't use it all in the moment, then it'll flow out onto the grid, and then we'll be able to use it later.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from anybody? Dave, did you have?
I did. So I want to thank staff. I had a number of concerns coming into this meeting, and the first one is this is new for us, and it's really new in South Tahoe. You don't see another array like this here. And typically when you do something new like that, you pilot it. You do a small scale so that if it doesn't work, you haven't spent a lot of money. So I raised a concern that we should look for examples in a similar, snowbound climate with pollen and all the other things that we have here. And so I appreciate staff reaching out and finding these examples in Truckee, Mammoth, and Aspen. That's a pretty good surrogate for a pilot study. So that satisfies my concern there. The reason I care whether it works or not is you may wonder if the ProStar group is really on the hook for this thing. If it's a third-party contract and all we're doing is leasing the ground to them and then yielding some of the benefits, why should we care? Well, the reason is if it doesn't work, number one, we may be relying on the power and we may be in the cold someday if it doesn't work. Number two, if it doesn't work and ProStar goes bankrupt or some version of bankruptcy, we may end up holding the bag, or they may sell it to a third party that we don't want to work with, or maybe we're not in favor of. So I want to make sure that ProStar is going to make money and is going to fulfill their full 25-year term. So that's why I want to make sure it works. So, but in the instance that doesn't happen, I'm glad to see that you've included or considered provisions for bankruptcy and third-party takeover and those types of things. I do want to see those before, agreeing to the agreement. I understand today's action is to acknowledge the letter of intent, and I'm certainly, based on what I've heard today, I'm willing to go there. But the agreement is a separate action, and so I will want to see those provisions.
And I understand that Gary will really get us up to speed on that, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still negotiating with Standard Solar, but we just had a conference call yesterday, and we have narrowed the issues that are to be resolved. I mean, we're pretty close on that now, and so once we get those nailed down, within the next meeting or two, we'll come to you with a presentation on the key terms of the power purchase agreement. So then we'll walk you through those at not at ground level, but up a little ways so you don't get lost in the weeds, but it's about a 25-page document right now. But we've understood and listened to your questions from before, and we'll include all those in the discussion, and hopefully answer all your questions and make you feel comfortable with what's been negotiated so far.
And if there are any particular terms that you're interested in, you want Gary to touch on that weren't on that slide, just let us know in the interim and we'll make sure that they're included in that presentation.
When I saw on the slide, it would answer my questions if I just understood what was behind the line item. So, I'm really, really happy that staff was very responsive to my earlier comments and came here prepared today and covered these things. So, thank you.
Thank you. I think we might have one more member of the audience who wanted to speak.
Hi, I'm Sue Chandler. Basically what I was going to say has already been said. Thank you very much for considering this project. It's something that I think is good for our community, both financially, socially, and certainly environmentally. And any of you that did have time this morning to listen to the Lake Tahoe Summit, it was exceptional, and you can get it online by going to tahoefund.org. But the one thing that was stressed was the importance of a community like the Tahoe Basin, becoming energy independent and setting up as many microgrids and making it possible to be independent as far as climate change and forest protection. And this is a step in the right direction, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, did we get everyone?
I just want to quickly say, just obviously, thank you for everyone for attending, and then, you know, I really just want to highlight staff and the board, honestly, and kind of the collaborative effort. It's always just a great pleasure how we work, honestly, where you provide questions, responses are immediate and detailed, and just a really, you know, collaborative effort between everyone in this room and the community. So just really positive thing to be a part of, so thanks so much.
Yeah, and I echo what Nick said. It's heartening to see members of the public here. It's nice for us. We don't often get that.
Actually, I thought they were here for the phone call.
Yeah.
It's really important stuff.
Yeah.
All right, shall I read the requested action?
Please do.
All right. I'm here to request that the board acknowledge the letter of intent between CORE and ProStar to develop a solar project for the South Tahoe Public Utility District and direct staff to continue negotiations with Standard Solar, CORE, and ProStar for the power purchase agreement and development of a solar project at the wastewater treatment plant.
Can I make one change to that?
You want to go with the hanging horn?
Yeah, the agreement between Standard Solar and ProStar.
I'm sorry, which agreement is between?
The letter of intent,
It's between,
Standard Solar and ProStar.
oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm gonna start over. Acknowledge the letter of intent between Standard Solar and ProStar to develop a solar project in the South Tahoe Public Utility District and direct staff to continue negotiations with Standard Solar /CORE/ProStar for the power purchase agreement and development of a solar project in the wastewater treatment plant.
I move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. And vote. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to 6B, Paloma Well Rehabilitation Project, rebid, and that's EVO.
Right, good afternoon, board members. I hope you received the memorandum that I sent out yesterday evening, or I guess it came to you possibly this morning.
Did everybody get that?
So if you had a chance to read the memo, what I tried to do is summarize pretty much the work that we've done over the past month since mid-July, when the board authorized staff to move forward and try to negotiate a new contracting out with Zen Industries for this project. The approach that we've taken through these negotiations is first to get clarification on items that in the original bid were misinterpreted. And then the second thing that we try to do is try to look at different ways of looking at how to go about doing the rehab where we could leverage some of the existing equipment that the district already had and have removed from the well for reinstallation into that well. Along with that, we also did work due diligence-wise as far as getting clarification from Department or Division of Drinking Water on use of NSF certified versus NSF compliant materials for the project. And we also had a number of conversations with FlowServe as far as what exactly they were proposing to do with the refurbishment of a motor for the well,
and whether that would be, if they'd stand by that as a certified item versus a compliant item. And so we've done all that, and what I tried to convey in the memo is the now, I think in the board item that went to you last week, there were 3 items, and we have 4 items on the table. The 4th item, the 4th option was to use or purchase a brand new pump, use that with the district supplied refurbished motor that was NSF 61 certified, along with reusing of the existing column pipe that we pulled out of that well. That was option number 4. And so if you look at the table, what I did highlight is the recommended option for the project, which is that final option. And what that getting or using that as a basis of bid award for Zim Industries would give the district the flexibility to basically move forward with the rehab and reinstallation of equipment that would include a new NSF 61 pump as well, and have that mated with our refurbished motor. And what I'm also recommending is that we've been talking with the manufacturer, Flowserve, about doing a refurbishment on the pump. And I started that conversation actually was a day ago. And the reply that I got from Flowserve this morning somewhat suggests that if they were able to refurbish that pump, that there would be a potential savings of about 75 or 25% less than the purchase of a new pump. So what you would look at as far as costs for option 4, it would fall somewhere between option 3 and option 4, between the two, if that was possible. And so that is the recommended approach that we're bringing to you. Again, I understand, there were a lot of questioning as far as the level of costs as compared to the estimated probable cost for the project. I have gone through and looked, actually I had Star Glaze, our contracts administrator, she went and did a search through our electronic bidding system through Planet Bids, and if you compare as far as estimated costs for award and actual what the actual bid amount that was that actually went out that they had to that they accepted, those costs, that cost differential is pretty common. It's been as high as over 85% on some projects, and that's for a number of different agencies within California. So with that, I hope I also have answered the board's questions about this project, and open it up to you for any questions that you might have about moving forward with the project.
Anybody?
Yeah. So, sorry to take away some of the warm fuzzies from our solar. But I gotta say, I'm a little disappointed in the negotiations for the cost reduction. And I know it's not anything you could change. My problem is I feel like we're backed into a corner on this. And I don't like that feeling. So I'll ask one more time because I can't remember what you said the first time. How long has Paloma Well been down?
Since October of last year.
Since 2020?
Yes.
And do you think we've exhausted every option we have as far as getting this work done in the current climate? But what about I mean, it just doesn't sit well with me, and I may be alone here, but I'm not convinced that I'm gonna go along with it. So I don't know, anybody else got any comments on this, or is this just me by myself?
I guess this, again, I'm not an expert in drilling wells and motors, and then I don't even know what the industry even looks like, but I can sense that considering the drought conditions in California, it's like the second major drought in the last 5 years, that these types of providers are just calling the shots. I mean, I don't know, that's just my impression.
Is that your feeling?
I think the biggest thing, and it's not just getting people to do the work, which is difficult, it's the long lead times that you're looking at these pump and motor sets. I mean, if you look at the lead times, they're, on the order of 9 months out. So if we don't move on this, okay, there's no way that we're going to have that well available to us next summer. So I think that's, that's an important thing to consider. If you want to hold off until, the economy or the bidding climate improves, I mean, nobody knows when that's going to happen. But if, again, I don't, I don't like to feel like I'm pushing you into a corner. But
I don't mean us as a board and you as a hydrogeologist.
Well,
I'm feeling like the district is kind of being pushed into a corner.
Yeah.
Because you only got one bid, and that was a really awful bid.
Yeah, well, looking and comparing to bid results, through Planet Bids, it was not really that awful.
Well, we can justify it, but
it's kind of on par with the levels of increase that you have seen, again, between what was expected and what was actually received.
A lot of those, the cost increases that you actually, the parts are much more expensive.
It's not,
in recent years.
it's a number of things that I think I pointed out or tried to point out.
But not just,
as far as lead times, as far as product shortages, you also have increased costs of materials, basic materials like copper, steel, things of that sort that they rely on. Cost of oil increases, all of that stuff contributes to these inflated prices that we haven't really seen these kind of big jumps, in quite a long time. And again, the estimate of probable cost, I made that up in early or late 2019 or early 2020 with the best available bids that I could find. And, you go out for bid in 2021 and, that's what happened.
Yeah. What was I was curious, so I just, reflecting back on when this was originally presented, and you came to us and said that the bid came in, they backed out. What was their original bid and they ended up backing out on and wanted to renegotiate?
It was around at the same level as option one. Option one is pretty much their base bid, but.
So we got them down 100,000.
Yes.
And there was like an error, was there like a zero or something they dropped off or something?
Yeah, they didn't provide a full cost for the pump and motor set.
I was going to say, I actually empathize with what Chris said as far as kind of feeling wise, because at some level you're just left without kind of any bid to compare against meets kind of no negotiated power. And so at some level kind of completely well allocated, kind of Chris's concerns meets the cost benefit, if you will, about what we know about the other wells in the area meets not having Paloma well ready by summer of next year. And that's kind of how I see the equation work, shaking out for me.
I have a couple.
I think the other thing is the inflation numbers that you see in the paper have not caught up with reality yet. What we're really seeing on the ground is order of magnitude greater.
So you think waiting would cost more?
Everything's more. Labor's more. If you can
So
find-
therein lies the
You can find them.
bet.
Yeah, you saw Julie's data earlier on the power cost. Everything is just, it's kind of, it's a little mind blowing, and I think it's just kind of where we are. We did this thing competitively, and, we did what we could. I think this is just where we live now. So, I think this is a real wake-up call that we gotta look through the CIP then, and in our long-range financial planning, and start planning on this kind of escalation costs across the board.
Okay, Evo. They convinced me. I'm not gonna find
Julie,
you on
did
this
you
one.
put an input, or if he said okay, you're.
Well, I just was gonna say the same thing that Dave was saying, but
Yeah, no, I think we,
the market is just changing, so rapidly, and with infrastructure funding coming down the pike from the Fed, that's only gonna make the prices go up more, right? As everybody becomes so busy that, they can't keep up, so.
I'm not willing to bet that they won't be busier or more expensive in 9 months, so I don't wanna look like the dummy that said we should wait.
The other, the other point I wanna make is that, our El Tahoe well, which, is sort of if Paloma is our third most important well, El Tahoe is our second most important well, it's actually much older than, Paloma, correct, Evo? Several years older than Paloma?
It is, yeah.
And it is on the CIP to be rehabilitated in 3 years' time. So this has been, a good lesson for us on how to better estimate these things, and, we'll put that information to use as we move forward the El Tahoe well. And so, we need to get this one back online so that it is in service and we can take El Tahoe out and rehab it. And yeah.
I was just gonna do your point, Dave. Before we start to get to budget time, there's gonna be the opportunity to look at some of the kind of projected costs in the future to this new world as was described. And maybe not even to give it as kind of finalized in that packet, but just some reasonably kind of honest, conservative estimates. I mean, this could even be one of your baseline examples, but just so you have, a more fuller picture when we get to that point. So.
When we do our budgeting, we currently use a 3% escalation per year for construction costs. I've been talking to some of our partners around the lake at different agencies. They use a higher number. And so, I am interested in talking to them about what numbers do they use and how are they, coming up with something higher, and getting that backing for it.
Just as some perspective, I've had a couple other clients just bid out wells, and they came in 40 to 60% higher than what they expected. So it's not isolated to this area, even in Southern California. They got bids, but they're all high.
That one was 100% higher. It's not 120. That's all.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but the bid items that they were throwing in there was arbitrarily selected. And so if you think it's the best we can do, let's just do what you gotta do.
Chris, working with these guys for the past month, they've provided what we've requested, and that's just kind of how the numbers are playing out.
I don't think it's worth any more argument about, honestly.
I think that there's a great point. The basis for future projections are being made right now, because really the numbers are still coming in, as Gary said, and so, maybe next year, you have something to look back on.
And I could be right and this could all go away, but I don't want to take that bet, honestly. I don't think it's a good bet.
Yeah.
I think Dave's right.
And how much is the new infrastructure? I think to Julie's point, it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
Given what's just recently been approved and what's likely to happen next.
Well, the $1 trillion bill, there's more on top of that.
A lot coming.
And there's another lesson in when you get into a hyperinflationary period like this. Every year is your enemy. So a lot of times there's a tendency to try to chase free money, grant money, those types of things. They can add another year or another 2 years or another 3 years to a project. Well, those 3 years can gobble up any benefit of that free money. So I think as we evaluate projects, we really want to be thinking about the timing of it, because the sooner the better in an inflationary period. It leads you out if you let the state or the federal government, people that work with the Corps of Engineers, for instance, you're subject to annual federal appropriations if you got a 10-year project, and the local share can be much higher than if you just did the whole job yourself. So, anyway, something to think about.
And we did have 5 years of under-engineers estimates for a while there, didn't we? We had our run.
Yeah.
That's gone, but we had it for a while. Okay. All right, then.
Okay, so, the staff recommendation to the board is, the concluding paragraph of the memo. And from that, it is to accept the ZIM bid proposal for option 4 as a basis for bid award for the project in the amount of $566,347. Second, authorize the general manager to increase PO 2021-0908 by $66,590 for a refurbished NSF 61 certified submersible motor for use in the project. And 3, authorize staff to continue to pursue costs to refurbish the existing submersible pump removed from the Paloma well using NSF 61 certified parts for possible reuse in the project.
So moved.
I'll second that. I have a motion and a second. And the vote.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for putting up with me. We get free dinner from that too? I want to meet Mr. Zim.
Yeah. Now that will be now. Okay. 6C, Diamond Valley Ranch Facilities Emergency Repairs Project.
Yes, this is a request to continue the emergency action approved at the last board meeting. Jim and Trevor are here to provide an update on where we're at and where we're going. But first, actually, I'd like to recognize Buck. Buck, the board, and others have been made aware of the great service you provided during the Tamarack fire. And here's a summary of some of those events. On Saturday, July 17th, the Tamarack fire, which started as a lightning strike over Independence Day, grew rapidly, heading quickly towards Markleysville and Woodfords. Buck McClellan, I think everybody knows Buck, back here in the orange. Oh, yeah, come on up. Come on up. Buck's our pump station operator. He was keeping a close eye on the situation out there. He lives in Woodfords. And when the mandatory evacuation order was issued for his home there, he immediately began coordinating with Jim Hilton, alerting him to the imminent threat and keeping him fully informed. And while in the midst of evacuating his own home and relocating his family to safety, Buck continued to keep an eye on district facilities. As he patrolled Diamond Valley Ranch that evening, he observed the fire advancing quickly towards the district's shop facility, which is about 1,000 feet west of Harvey Place Reservoir. Buck then called in a 20-man strike team, but he immediately began fighting small fires around the shop. The strike team arrived and joined Buck in carving out a fire line around the shop and weighing down the surrounding vegetation. As the flames closed in, Buck and the strike team were forced to evacuate. The next day, Buck returned to find over 600 acres of the district's property, our forested area, much of the area around Indian Creek Reservoir and Harvey Place, really almost completely decimated. But the fire line he and the strike team installed worked, and the shop was unharmed. Buck's professional firefighting background and knowledge of the Woodford area and the DVR property was integral to saving really millions of dollars worth of district facilities. You know, the building, many pieces of equipment, machinery, tools, and equipment in and around the shop. So today, we are proud to present the first ever award of distinction to Buck McClellan for going above and beyond the call of duty to protect district facilities. On behalf of the district, our board, our ratepayers, and the community of South Lake Tahoe and Woodfords, thank you, Buck.
Buck, you gotta go up there. I know.
Bob.
Yeah.
Where am I at?
Go back.
Okay.
It's in the middle.
Sounds like the first chapter.
We have a,
Oh, yeah.
perfect. We have a real one coming. You can.
I just want if I can, I'd like to thank Buck as well. He gave John and I a tour of, kind of what happened down there and, above and beyond, showed us all around the DVR property as well as, got us into Markletville. Actually, while the fire was ongoing, there was helicopters actively dropping water. And, so really appreciate, your time, Buck, and showing us around and giving us kind of insight of what was going on there.
Cool. And I want to let you guys know, I mean, Jim, Chris, everybody at the district my phone was blowing up. And they weren't concerned about the district stuff. They were concerned about me and my family. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. I mean, you've got a great culture here and happy to be able to help out. Thank you.
Thanks, Buck. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on to the action item. Let's get some updates from Jim and Trevor.
So I'll start, we were able to award a contract for the debris removal to White Rock Construction. I believe they received a notice to proceed today and will be quickly moving in to get that debris removed. And we're in good shape. As long as we get water flowing by Labor Day, we should be able to get to Deadpool with the reservoir, which was my concern originally, as you know, pretty quickly. So. We also, Julie, Trevor, and I had a good meeting with Gannett Fleming, a consultant firm we brought up to, help us analyze the future for erosion control, and they've had some good ideas and provided us a technical memorandum that we'll work from. Trevor and I, the following day, had a great meeting with the BLM staff, the Bureau of Land Management staff, that will help us with the erosion control. Timeline's kind of uncertain, but what we did find out is that that's going to be our resource, the BEAR team, the Burn Area Emergency Response Team, which is pretty much only dedicated to the forest, the Humboldt-Toyabe forest. And so Trevor and I will be working directly with the Bureau of Land Management. And then next week, we're going to sit down, Julie, Trevor, and I, and talk about bringing on a forestry consultant for looking at all the hazard trees and, possibly salvage logging and whatnot. Okay.
Sorry, I just had, I couldn't recall from last meeting, what were we were looking at financing mechanisms for, I'll just call it the slope restoration effort. Were we looking at financing mechanisms, was I correct in
It was
looking that way?
more or less, the delay in why it took so long for us to get the contractor on board was making sure that we've dotted every I and crossed every T for potential future funding from, FEMA.
Because I just was thinking about what Dave had said, just recently, in that the likelihood that this is going to occur given the soils on site meets precipitation that caused the event. And once we start to run the frequency, means how much it costs to clean it up. What does that cost in years in the future when we start investing today, right? It's just something like, and not to have the answer today, of course.
No, you bring up a great point, Shane. When I came on board, it's something that's near and dear to me a little bit, in the sense that when I looked at our infrastructure down there, one of the things that was kind of frustrating is where do you start to improve on facilities when whether it's be it fresh water going to Indian Creek Reservoir or the recycled water going to our ranchers, you're conveying a commodity that you're not receiving a penny of revenue from. So how do you really assess how much money and the efforts that you want to put forth? We brought in Gannett Fleming a year ago just to help us assess just that question. That was obviously before the fire, before the burn scar that, exacerbates what we're going to see in the future. But to help us along, what do we do? How do we, this 40-year-old unreinforced canal, what's the best methodology moving forward to help us? And now I think it's truly forced our hand. I mean, to your point, these debris flows, which are going to continue regardless, of what kind of measures we try to put in place. It's fighting an uphill battle, no pun intended. And, at some point in time, we have to really look at that cost-benefit analysis.
Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I recall, the district doesn't own the ditch.
No, we don't. It's one of those unique things, Gary, as you probably know better than I. It was set up in this Diamond Ditch Mutual Owners Association. The word owners is kind of a misnomer because it's basically the ranchers, have that authority, in essence, to have us convey water to them, but we're on the hook through this, longstanding agreement to operate and maintain this facility.
Exactly.
And we built it, is that right?
Yes.
We improved it.
We've
Improved it, it was a first line ditch?
It was before Indian Creek, when we used to convey all the tertiary treated water to Indian Creek, it was just an earthen ditch with one inverted siphon. And then when we built Harvey Place Reservoir, we improved the conveyance facility to an unreinforced concrete channel and then added another siphon. That was 40 years ago.
Is this, I guess, curious about, as we move into the Diamond Valley Ranch strategy, we're calling it, is this going to be part of that conversation, just in terms of what options are there?
Just taking out the strategic plan for recycled water facilities, and this could, I think, impact a few of those alternatives we'll be looking at.
Yeah, and I've always been a proponent. Basically, we're delivering hundreds of millions of gallons of water a year, I would think, free, and we're receiving nothing in order to maintain the infrastructure to keep that water flowing. So minimally, we need cost recovery on those waters that we're delivering, in my opinion.
Yeah, the contracts come up in 2028. So, hopefully with the strategic plan will help us as we begin negotiations with those that receive the water.
Well, wasn't that the reason for all the irrigation and the farmlands, so we could disperse the water over our own agriculture?
To give us an option, yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully there'll be more options, constructive wetlands, more options as well, potentially.
Unfortunately for the ditch itself, I'm not sure we can wait for the, results of the strategic plan to make some decisions about what to do with it though. The planning process is going to be 3 years, and then the first project coming out of it is probably 5 years down the line. We've got unstable slopes now, and so right now in the 10-year plan, we have a ditch improvement project on the 10-year in 3 years' time. But we were going to start working on the roads out there next year. So I think we may end up, maybe swapping and pulling forward the ditch improvements and, we just need to figure out what more substantial improvements need to be made to, keep that thing running so that we're not out there every time it rains with a backhoe and an emergency to clear it.
Yeah, and just working with BLM on some of those areas that seem to be flowing directly from their lands into the ditch, getting them to do some buy-in from them to do something about it, help us, maintain or stabilize those slopes or whatever.
It was really eye-opening for me to be out there because I hadn't seen, the whole thing end to end. It's clear that there are some areas that there is a lot of load up there still that could come down. Some, it's like, that storm came through, and now when you look up, it looks like a rock stabilized slope. And so, there may not be much more coming down from certain sections, but some of them, there's a lot more to come.
Okay. Anything else? Is that our purview of anything?
Basically it, unless you have questions.
I just have a quick for Trevor, just, what's the volume we're pulling out of there?
We're estimating about 900 to 1,000 cubic yards, and actually, I'll come up. Thank you. So,
No, Jim did a great job. I was checking off my talking points as he's going through, so I've got new exciting facts that he can present. Approximately 1,000 cubic yards, and I will say that while it may seem like we're moving slow out there, our goal is, we've had a rough start to this fiscal year, and so our goal is to maintain our eligibility for FEMA reimbursement if and when there is a federal declaration out there. So we're trying to be very deliberate, but very quick in moving through our purchasing process. We were able to use the emergency declaration that you create on the 5th to move forward within a week, issue an RFP to 3 contractors. We actually received 3 proposals back, and then White Rock is one of those. We notified them last night. They're mobilizing today, and they'll be out there working tomorrow at 8 a.m. And then we also felt like normally we end up getting out the T&M sheet, so we're tracking every piece of equipment, every person on the project, they get their markup. In this case, we actually have fixed prices. They're going to be working against per cubic yard or per linear foot of silt fence. We felt like they were very competitive. They came in at $135,000. The second proposal was at $139,000, and then the third was at $300,000 and something. So we felt like we're saving money even if we're not reimbursed. But if we are eligible for reimbursement by going through this process of getting unit pricing, we stay in the good graces of FEMA. So I wanted to share those numbers.
What are we gonna do with the removed material? Is it gonna be on site, or what are we gonna put it?
We're gonna keep it all inside at the ranch. We actually have 2 different proposal prices for that. One is materials removed from this concrete line ditch and cast on the other side of the access road, and another is for locations where there's a downstream waterway where we actually have to truck it or relocate it onto another site at the ranch.
We can potentially access that fill at some later date for some other project down there potentially?
Sure. Jim's got a nice little stockpile of all kinds of varying materials. It's, we treat the environment with respect, but we are able to move very quickly in Alpine County in comparison to Tahoe Basin projects. So, we're working with that flexibility. But Jim mentioned it, but we spent a lot of time, at least BLM laid eyes in person on our issues. The Forest Service is now aware, and Lynn Nolan has a meeting with OES out of Alpine County tomorrow morning. So we're still exploring those funding opportunities. It may be that there's FEMA mitigation if there's a federal declaration. It may be something through OES. It may be that we're talking to Paul about an SRF loan for this facility.
Just a quick update, because literally just before the board meeting, we were notified by the state that there is not going to be a federal declaration, so it'll be a state-funded emergency. It's good news that there's going to be some state funding. Bad news is not as good as the federal funding. The local match on the state side is 25%, where on the federal side, it's a percentage that's in between 5 and 6. The toughest bit of news is that with a state-funded emergency, there's not any mitigation funding. So looks like we most likely will be on our own for that.
But, and again, the request for proposals we put out is just kind of the bare minimum to get us back up and running. There's no Cadillac options on what we're paying for. It's just to clear out the ditch, clear out a little bit behind the fence to buy some capacity, and then hang some filter fence to mitigate runoff in the future.
So just to summarize, we're at 132 on this removed fuel, and then we've allocated 300,000 to deal with the situation, so we're in good shape on that.
And I don't want to go off on this, but out of curiosity, is there criteria that establishes when or when not that declaration is made? Or is it like a political lobbying effort, like all things seem to be in today's world?
I'm assuming there must be. I don't know what it is, but that was the information this OES provided us today.
It does seem to be a federal declaration. Jim has been in contact with McClintock's office. I think John tried to make contact as well today with staffers and reps from the office. So we are pushing that angle.
Yeah, we're not check out to them and see what that would take.
They're kind of captivated on Tahoe today.
Right.
And so maybe that, and explains maybe hard to reach today as well. But, maybe we're able to kind of, with that spotlight on Tahoe, and utilize that to our benefit.
I think in background, were there only 2 structures lost in the Tamarack fire?
there's a very limited number of structures.
2 homes.
2 homes. So on the federal disaster spectrum, the Tamarack fires kind of in the shadows. I think you're seeing a lot of action with the Colorado just because there's so many homes threatened. And so that's one of the challenges in getting federal declarations that we're up against. Because the BLM's looking after their facilities, Forest Service is looking after their lands, and we're kind of off in there.
There might be something coming out of that bear report in terms of later funding available for stabilizing slopes and revegetation, things like that. So
It's a very interesting engineering report. There's several debris flows estimated at more than 10,000 cubic meters in 5 different locations. Like, you don't want to be at the gas station in Markleeville and it starts going.
But that's our update. If there aren't any other questions, I can read the requested motion and we can continue the emergency.
Sure, please.
Okay. So we're requesting to continue the emergency action to repair the Diamond Valley Ranch facilities per resolution 3193-2.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
For some reason, only my yes button works.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks, Trevor. Thanks, Trevor. Thanks, Tim. All right, I think I've got the next one.
You do.
This item is to approve the conversion of an existing OIT, which is Operator in Training position, to a base level Operator 1 position. I've provided the financial and operational backup in the agenda item, quite a bit of detail. There are many operational benefits, as I discussed, but sort of like the solar, the beauty is that it also makes financial sense right now and at every point in time throughout the life of the Operator 1 position. And this change will also build some immediate bench strength with some approaching retirements in the plant operations department. And the ad hoc committee met on this, the Committee for Structure, Service, and Efficiency. That's Kelly and Chris, and they are recommending this conversion. Any other comments or questions from the board or the committee?
No, I think we beat it to a dead horse last time we talked about it.
Okay. Are we to requested board action, convert the existing Operator in Training position to an Operator 1 position?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And the vote? And that passes unanimously. Great. That moves us to payment of claims, and I'll move approval of payment of claims in the amount of $1,545,840.60.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And the vote. And that passes unanimously. Okay, that brings us to standing and ad hoc committees and liaison reports. And as the item B, Chris and I met, and there's really nothing to say.
We've already acted upon it.
Yeah, already.
So the solar committee meeting, and we have the same thing, so we already acted on that as well.
Is there any board member reports?
Ops committee, yeah, and just a rather routine going through the projects. There was a sewer leak down in the Tlac estate. That, as it turned out, it was a lateral. It's not ours, but our crew fixed it, so that was a good thing. Shane?
Yeah, no, it was good. We did get some more update on the Tamarack fire reflow. We acted on that again today. Trying to find anything else in here that was significant Paloma well. Talked about that again today. So yeah, everything essentially that we talked through there in large part was talked about here today. So.
Eldorado, board member reports. Anybody?
Negative.
Eldorado Water Agency purveyor report.
Yes, we did have a meeting, last week on, Eldorado Water Agency, and, the main item of discussion was the, COVID Rescue Act. And read my own writing. And, basically, Eldorado County got a pile of money, and South Lake Tahoe got a pile of money, and I think, John, you've got people on this thing. It sounds like, they've got a call for projects, there are deadlines, and I don't know where we're at on that, but maybe you could fill
Yeah,
in.
I don't know, I'll update later.
Okay, thank you.
Staff and attorney reports. Doesn't look like we have anything. That brings us to general manager.
Okay, thank you. A little bit on staffing. We interviewed 5 candidates last Thursday for an underground repair sewer position, and we ended up selecting our own Casey White, who's coming in from the water crew. So congratulations to Casey, and we're thinking about how to best refill that vacancy on the water crew now. And also, with your approval of the OIT conversion, we'll be discussing the appropriate recruiting effort for the operator 1 position. A little COVID update for you. We have 2 employees out due to COVID symptoms and awaiting test results. And right now, we have no employees that are out and testing COVID positive right now. You probably noticed we're back to wearing masks in common spaces, requiring the public to mask up when entering the customer service office, but we're remaining open. And the decision to bring the mask back was based on recommendations from CDC and CDPH, and also BART pretty heavily. Although there is still no strict requirement to do so from the state of the county, we felt this was the best to be maybe a little safer indoors in common spaces. So our next item is ARPA, the American Recovery Plan Act, the COVID recovery funding. And I mentioned before, the city and the county, and Dave mentioned it, the city and county will be receiving ARPA funds directly. I think it is $5.1 million at the city and 34-something million at the county. As a special district, we do not. So we're working with the city and county to try to get some things funded. We submitted funding requests to both the city and the county. In both requests, we indicated that the funds, if received, would be used for the installation of additional fire hydrants, about 72 fire hydrants in all, depending on the level of funds received. We made both of our requests scalable. So the parts for a hydrant is about $8,000. So it's scalable at $8,000 a pop, essentially. At the city, we made a $300,000 request for 37 new hydrants within the city limits, and we have been successful in that effort. So really good news, City Council met on Tuesday and approved the city hydrants project as part of an array of other city projects, and certainly appreciate the support from Joe Urban, Tammy Wallace, and all the city council for approving this hydrant project. And per our proposal, the $300,000 will be used for parts only, and the district will be taking care of the installation, I think likely our own staff. I think this type of partnership was also an important part of the effective request of the city. We're hoping to have similar success with the county. Of course, we actually made a $600,000 request for hydrants and also a $50,000 request for emergency communications. So a wide range of funding opportunities for the county. And the county review process is now underway as of August 6th. So I'm going to do some outreach here, like I did with the city, work with Eldorado Water Agency, actually Tahoe City PUD, as I touched on earlier today, Supervisor Novacell and others to build on support for these hydrants projects. Any questions, comments on ARPA?
It's just great work taking advantage of that opportunity and looking to utilize it to kind of solve some of our community goals.
Yeah, that worked out really well.
we're pleasantly surprised, let's put it that way. All right, next, 2021 goals. On Monday.
I'm sorry, John.
Yes, sir?
So what was the other requests from other entities, or how does money shake out elsewhere?
I mean, I looked at the request that went out for kind of a community vote. I actually don't know what the council approved yesterday, but they all came from their strategic plan. And when I put this hydrant proposal in, I referenced elements of their strategic plan. So then I think that was a key component. I don't know if anybody else has more information on what the city approved.
Yeah, a little bit. They, and I didn't listen to the meeting, but was just talking with the council members. And so apparently I don't know if you had a chance to look at the survey they sent around. They looked at it kind of from just almost a democratic process through that. The things that were in the strategic plans that received votes. So, like you might understand, there was like the hydrants, but then there was also money going to some planning related things, expanding the ice skateboard park, some infrastructure things like, you might imagine.
Thank you.
On the 2021 goals on Monday, I emailed the board my own mid-year assessment on the status of the 2021 board goals we put together in February. I assessed each of the 12 strategic categories, provided a brief status assessment, as well as a graphic kind of showing the current status and my year-end projection for each of those 12 strategic goals. Overall, a lot of big goals, mostly on schedule and set up for substantial completion by the end of the year. I kind of like that status indicator. I don't know what the board thought. I plan to expand on this at the end of the year using a similar format, if that is suitable to the board. So I guess I have a question. Do you find this to be useful and informative, or do you have any other thoughts from the board on this effort so far?
I apologize, I haven't taken a look at it yet. I will give you feedback. Come on.
Really?
I was at a meeting all week out of town, sorry. I did look at it as well.
I did look at it as well, and I like the format.
I kind of have this completion graph showing, my current assessment and where I think we're going to be at the end of the year. So,
I appreciate it.
It's almost four, but not quite.
Not quite. We're never like completely done.
Almost there. Gotta have something next year. Under promise, over deliver.
Yeah, and obviously, feel free to contact me later with comments. Actually, at any time. There was one item I highlighted, goal 2D, on whether the board would like to get into updates to our vision, mission, strategic goals, or logo this year. And I put a comment on there that perhaps we have enough going on right now, and we could possibly revisit this next year. But we can talk about that now. I can ping you in the future. Whatever is your desire.
Future ping sounds good.
Yeah.
Future ping.
Future ping? Okay. So
look at that logo right now.
Yeah.
Logo.
Stupid smart. Hashtags.
My brother
actually
refers to it that I'm on the same PUD board. That'd be a good time for me.
Yeah.
The brother I like, I would put it that way.
Yeah.
So is there consensus that for this item, looking at the mission, we'll push that to next year?
Yeah.
Not this year? Okay.
Pretty easy. Throw it into those committees, talk about it, with AD-HOC.
Yeah. Okay, my last item is Tahoe Keys Water, and I do just have a short report, Dave, but.
Short report, though.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Hi, Dave.
I just mentioned that if you're wanting to wait around to speak to anybody, it's probably only going to be a couple minutes.
You didn't say anything about the staff picnic?
Is there more on the agenda?
There's nothing else.
Enjoy your weekend.
See you next time. Thanks, Dave. All right.
Change it. We're not invited. Invite me, change the body.
Oh, we have a virtual picnic coming up on Wednesday.
virtual thing.
So,
Barbecue your own hot dog?
That's right. Hot pocket.
Yeah.
We did that. Yeah, let's push that out to the board. Welcome to participate. Well, kind of a annual awards presentation.
There's no.
It's like a what meeting?
So I barbecue at my own house.
I think, I actually think we're bringing supplies out to each of our crews. So they can kind of have lunch, in their own areas.
Where's IT gonna set up?
Awesome, anywhere, all over.
You can have a chili cook-off and everybody wins. Because everybody takes their own chili.
Yeah, the last meeting I went to, it was, I forget what the theme was, but there was water bins.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's one here.
And it was in here. Yeah.
We had a dump tank one year.
Oh, we gotta get John on it.
Those dump tanks. We had one at St. Teresa's at the picnic. And Dennis got in, and you should have seen the line. I mean,
yeah.
It was all over town.
Okay, Tahoe Keys Water, we met with Tahoe Keys again last week, talking about potential long-term water supply alternatives from the district. And we are working with them still on an engineering RFP. This is for outside engineering services needed to assist in the development of these alternatives. And again, this work will be paid for by the Tahoe Keys by way of a reimbursement agreement, which this board has already approved and will be going to the Tahoe Keys board on August 26th. And back at the Keys, still their primary supply is well number 1, which is then supplemented by the Lucan dinner time. And they are continuing work on the uranium treatment systems at wells 2 and 3. Again, expecting those to be completed and go online this month. The district has not supplied any water to the Tahoe Keys through our intertime. So that's really the latest on the Keys. Unless there's any other questions?
So they're almost on their own 2 feet again.
Seems like it. Yeah, I mean, they've got some limited hand watering, drip irrigation, hand watering going on out there, but no turf irrigation.
And you might have covered this in previous meetings, but they're looking to sign the agreement end of this month. And then is there a timeline after that, or we're just kind of as it goes?
We have some ideas. I mean, I think once this, the engineering RFP is completed, it's probably going to be a month, 6 weeks probably to find a consultant. We're looking at 3, up to 3.
Yeah.
And then, I'm thinking at least 3 to 5 months for that work to be completed. And it all kind of depends on what they're doing and what the Keys would like them to do. Because they're also doing their short-term and long-term facilities planning as well. The treatment was a part of that. They're looking to install a storage tank on site, installing meters. So how those things mesh with this engineering RFP will impact the schedule as well. Like I'm thinking probably the rest of the year it's going to take before we have, before we track down those 2 alternatives, the kind of wholesale water agreement, and not the final answer on what an acquisition would look like, but I think starting on what some of those kind of range of numbers might look like, probably by the end of the year, or probably by next February.
I mean, I figured it'd play out for a while. It's not terribly concerning.
Yeah, it was, beginning of the summer is all hot and heavy on that, so it's kind of tapered off, and it's really the Keys that's driving the schedule on this a great deal.
Right.
It would have been nice for Dave to give us an update on what's down on the board meeting yesterday.
It was awesome.
What did you board meeting?
Yeah.
I don't know, I just, it sounded like it was,
They have an expensive and difficult problem solving set in front of them.
For sure. That's all I have.
cool.
All right, well, we see the past and future meetings, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,